Hello out there, it's November 17th, 2016, and welcome to episode 10 of Summoner Sift, a League of Legends podcast. We're back again after a 2-week hiatus. I apologize for that. I've been working, but Projector's back. And we're
Yep,
here.
I'm back as well. So it's good to be back. It's good to talk some more League now that we have so much to talk about. So I'm really excited to be back.
Yep, so now we're going to turn this into an election podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
All right,
I'm
in.
about it at all. That's actually what caused all my work. I had to do a ton of work because of that. So, hey-oh, like that was fun, but thankfully I'm starting to be able to breathe. How you been, man? What you been up to?
I've been pretty good. I got a dog a week ago. On last Thursday, I adopted one from the Humane Society. It's an Australian Kelpie. It's a herding dog.
Ooh.
I live in an apartment, so it's been fun.
Way to pick an easy breed, buddy.
No kidding.
Easy breed.
Well, here's the worst part. Like, I always thought that my allergies to dogs were just mild, like if I had one. Turns out that's not the case in this specific instance. So my allergies have been really bad, and I also have asthma because why not? And so there's actually a chance I may have to give her up in a couple weeks if I can't get everything under control. But it's been going okay, so we'll see.
Well, that's good. And the good news about that, especially, hey, if you're ever worried, like those people out there that are thinking about adopting a dog, when you adopt a dog like that, and even if you have to take them back, it actually moves them around on the list, especially if you have to bring them back for a reason that isn't behavior related. So it's very good for the animal. It leads to them actually becoming like they're more likely to be adopted after they're brought back because it's like, oh, they were fine except allergies,
Yep.
So hey, good on you, man. That's awesome. What's her name?
She's a great dog. Her name is Pepper. She's all black, but she's got these like brown flecks in her coat that when she sits in the sunlight, it just shines. She's a beautiful dog. She's super high energy. She's super friendly. Like I love her to death, and I don't want to give her up.
But maybe your immune system will give up and just take it.
Yep. And you may, if someone walks by my apartment, you may hear her bark. Okay. I don't know, but we'll see.
No problem. It's all good. I can hear a little bit of barking right now. Maybe she's giving the business. Yeah, so
that's right.
No problem. We like dogs here on the Summoner Sift podcast. So I mean, all right. Well, for me, like I've been working nonstop. 2 weeks of craziness, flying around, going to different cities. I had to be in New York for election. So that was a lot of fun.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, you can imagine how New York was during that fiasco. Man. I was actually at the CNN broadcaster party when it went down. Like when the results started to trickle in. So you can imagine the tone of that party, how it shifted very quickly. Very quickly.
Jeez.
And so that was an interesting time. But yeah, we're through it, and it's over with. But I haven't been playing a ton of League. I did get a game in last night, but so what about you? How's the League been going? How's it been treating you?
So I had to especially with this dog, I've kind of had to adjust my schedule a bit, and so I've been a little unmotivated to play because I didn't want to have to adjust to all the changes too. Sure. Like League's kind of been like a decompress thing. Yeah. And so now that I have to relearn stuff, I've been stressed out again playing. But with about 10 games under my belt, I am feeling better about it. I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of how this patch has worked, and some things are fun, some things aren't. But I said I was going to learn Rengar, and I know he's actually kind of busted right now, but I think actually Kha'Zix is the one that I want to learn this season. And yeah, I'm just kind of getting a grip on things. There's really nothing to really do about climbing because it's preseason and everything's up in the air, but just understanding how the game works, I think, has been really good.
Right, and I always use this time, I think we talked about this last podcast, I always use this time as sort of a break. Hey, goof around, play some funny things, but sometimes it's good to just take a step back and not play some League for a while, right? So this actually timing-wise worked out really well, where I got super busy and it was preseason. To be honest, what we have talked about for 2 weeks, but now we have tons to talk about, right? So I think the timing worked out very well for the cast. I've played exactly one game of League of Legends in the preseason. I won it, thankfully. I actually stomped, straight up stomped. And but I definitely have a couple of thoughts after playing that game because it was quite a long game actually. Um, but I kind of want to let's go right into it. So like overall, like, are you enjoying the preseason so far?
Yes and no. I enjoy this. I'm enjoying a little bit of the shakeup of the meta, because the jungle meta for what I play really hasn't actually changed. Not enjoying the plants, but overall, I've been having a good time, just kind of playing and getting things, in order and trying to figure out. I'm actually learning jungle timers a lot better this trying because they changed the spawn rate of the camps.
Right.
So I've been a lot more intentional about learning the exact times that they come back up, and I'm getting better at that kind of thing. So I've actually appreciated how it's pushed me to learn a little bit more than I had.
So for those out there that don't know the time of the camps, what was the actual change? So
So the change before, I think it was like before they used to spawn like a minute 40 or something like
mhm,
that. Like, now they spawn every 150 seconds. So that's
right.
2.5 minutes of downtime. If you clear Gromp, you have to do something for 2.5 minutes before you get back. And if just doing a full clear and nothing else will have you, and then if you back, and then you go to that camp, you'll be standing around for about 10, 15 seconds before it's actually back up.
Yeah.
So you really have to be a little bit more intentional about what you're doing on the map and trying to make an impact, whether it's warding or ganking, or invading, to help fill that gap of time.
Yeah, and I feel like also what it's done is it actually made Scuttle like a lot more important, right? Because now like a good
Yeah.
clear includes Scuttle, whereas before Scuttle was sort of optional. You could like depending on how strong you were early, maybe you don't do Scuttle, especially if you're like gonna hard farm to 6. You didn't do Scuttle at all, right? Because you don't want to
Yep.
bump into the early game jungler and get killed. Now, like man, like if you want to like optimize your time, I think you have to do Scuttle, right? Like,
Yeah, you really want to either contest Scuttle, get a deep ward down, or look for a gank. I mean, you've got to do something though.
right?
You
Yeah,
can't, you
you got to be
cannot just
doing.
sit
Yeah,
still.
you can't just sit still. I mean, so I mean, we'll get into pathing and stuff like that, but I think like yeah, overall that's the way I felt too, where it was like, what do I do? I can't just sit in the jungle. I have to actually go do stuff, which was fine. That kind of worked out in the game that I played. Have you used a lot of the new items? I didn't actually use any new items, to be honest. I played with Rylai's and it felt exactly the same. I didn't see any
Yeah.
difference. It felt exactly the same, and I went, Red Smite into Rylai's into like a bunch of, you know, big damage items, so it didn't really feel any different.
I've played around with Edge of Night. I'm still trying to get used to the channel time on that passive that gives you a spell shield.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Edge of Night is a great item for someone like Vi, who it's like the new Hex Drinker. And I think it's in the new Maw
Sure.
in that respect. And I appreciate that. Dustblade has also been a really good item that I've seen make a lot of impact.
Mm-hmm.
And one that I don't build, but I've seen really, really do really, really well. Actually, two: Knight's Vow and Redemption. Knight's Vow is the one that
Those are the
allows you to
support
do a
items,
partner.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, and they're amazing. I mean, Redemption is like an AOE smite that allows you to like if the
It's like
enemy's standing in
heal.
it, they take damage, and
Yeah.
if you're standing in it, you get health.
Yeah.
Like you get a heal, and it's an amazing ability. And Knight's Vow is also really,
I think
really,
Knight's Vow is just
really
good because of the
powerful.
stats, right? Like Knight's
Yeah,
Vow, like it's you're doing what you would be doing anyway, but the stats are just good.
I
Um,
feel like supports have rarely been in such a position to set up their ADC and their team for success.
right.
I really like the itemization changes for support.
Well, like I said, you
Um,
remember I said at the end of I think the last episode we were on, I said I think support is going to be my other role. Like I think
yeah,
that I'm going to move away from top lane. I think like mainly because I'm not the greatest top laner anyway, but I think like support. I think you can carry a lot harder from it. I think you're a lot more
yeah,
active. I think the itemization is good. The only thing that I have seen, and let's kind of go right into that. Actually, I think that this is a good thing. Is man, Courage
okay.
of the Colossus is
Oh
pretty
my
stupid
gosh.
broken. Like,
Yeah.
holy moly, that thing is way overtuned, right?
Well, two things brought about because right now everyone thought we'd see an assassin meta, and right now we're seeing a tank meta, and it's for two reasons. The armor pen change to lethality makes it weaker at kind of the early levels where assassins are trying to snowball. But then also Courage of the Colossus is huge for tanks. I mean, that is just the straight up most broken mastery I think I've ever seen, other than like it's what Thunderlords was last preseason.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Thunderlords, like when Thunderlords came out, because it's like, man, like if you, although Thunderlords, you literally played it on every champion, and I don't think Courage is that way, but man, like and we actually had this discussion a little bit after, like at some point, but Courage feels like exactly the opposite of what they've been trying to do with the mastery changes, which is like, if you are this type of champion doing like then you pick this mastery, right? There should be choice.
Yeah.
Like they want there to be like some flexibility. And I feel like Courage is just basically like, if you are these 15 champions, you should 100% be playing Courage of the Colossus. Like there's no reason, like if you are Malphite, if you are Alistair, if you are Thresh, if you are like all of these heavy CC champions, you should just be playing it, right?
Nautilus was built for
Leona,
Nautilus was
like,
oh my gosh. That's why Leona's so good right now.
Yeah.
Like all the tank win rates skyrocketed. They went up like 3-4%. Some 5, almost 6% because of it. Like Scion is like the highest win rate in almost every position, except for obviously ADC. Like it's just
funny.
ridiculous. Courage, for those of you who don't know, Courage of the Colossus, when you land a hard CC, it gives you a shield that scales off of your max HP. So if you're a tank, you're already building HP, and you're landing CC like Maokai, Nautilus, it's all over his kit. Every single ability has some sort of CC pretty much. Hard CC, not a slow. So like Olaf doesn't really benefit from it.
Right.
But any hard CC, knockup, stun, root, any of those, it'll proc, and it gives you a shield that lasts 3 seconds. It's on a 30-second cooldown, which for some fights that doesn't mean much. Like that means that you'll get it twice.
Yeah.
But it's a ridiculous.
I mean, it's clearly intended to like force people to do what the champions like. I get what they're trying to do is like they're trying to manipulate like play style with a mastery. Like they're like, you should be going in, you know, and
we want to reward that.
You should initiate, so we want to reward that. But the problem is on the champions that were like clearly meant to do that stuff anyway, like Malphite, Nautilus, Amumu, like
Poppy,
it's crazy, like because that's what they want to do anyway. So now they're just tankiest at their like biggest moment of danger, right? When like that, if you've ever played Nautilus, like when he is really like the only time that Nautilus actually like gets into bad spots and feels a little weak is when he goes in and his team is a little slow to get there, right? Where like you get on somebody and like you're in there and like you can't quite, like all of a sudden they all turn on you, focus you, and your team doesn't get there fast enough, and you're just dead. But now like that's not gonna happen, right? So like
Nope.
if he's not getting kited, he's staying alive, and like that's really scary.
Yeah, this mastery is just absolutely crazy. Here's the thing, though, I do want to say about it because I've been seeing this on people. Okay, if you're a jungler and you're taking, you know, and you have CC, like I've seen this on Vi, I've seen it on, I've heard about it. Skarner's doing this too. If you're building Cinderhulk, take Courage of the Colossus. But if you're building any of the other items, do not take this. Like if you're not planning to build HP, if you're going damage, Courage of the Colossus will be useless to you because it scales off of max HP. So if I'm playing Vi and I'm going Trinity Force, Yomu's, whatever, and Warrior, then I'm taking Thunderlords. I'm not taking Courage.
Right.
Skarner, if I build Warrior instead of Cinderhulk, I'm not taking Courage. I'm taking something else. Like make sure you're taking it on a champion that can utilize what it's best for.
Right, get that percentage, actually get it to scale, because it's going to scale the more health items you build, right? So
yep,
like,
it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, so it seems like that's a no-brainer, right? Like, so here's a question. So, like, what about somebody who builds a little bit of health? Like what about Hecarim, for instance? Like, are people playing
Hecarim loves it.
Okay.
Yes,
so
Hecarim loves it because he has 2 hard CCs. He has his ult and he has his E.
Okay.
His I forget what the actual ability is called, but yeah, it's broken on him too. I mean, it's just that's what it is. Yeah, Hecarim's win rate Hecarim was already high on the win rates, and he went up more because of Courage. Like,
I mean, Hecarim's really good. Like, plus,
yeah.
I think the new jungle, like, and actually, I think the new jungle helps him a lot. Like the way anybody who was like an AOE clearer anyway that had sustained, like, it feels like the jungle is made for like AoE clears now. Like that's kind of what it's good for. Like you have to have an AoE ability. I would be very hesitant to play like a champion that has no AoE ability. And I actually
Yeah.
feel like now the Rengar change with the Q makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Because they added the AoE to the Q because he wouldn't
Because
be
of the
able to
camps.
clear, right? Yeah. So now like it's all kind of coming together. I think like you start to see how like Riot designs. It's like, well, we want to change this, but this stinks because he can't clear, and we want him to be a jungler, but he can't. So now what do we do? And like, you know, you can kind of see the strings a little bit there.
Yeah, I had that thought today. That I thought that was a smart change for the Q, even though Rengar is one of the busted of the reworks.
Yeah,
Rengar is,
he's weird like that. He'll fluctuate. They'll get him right.
yeah,
Also, like people will again figure out how to build it. I think what's interesting, you know, just to sort of polish off the Courage of the Colossus like thing, it's really interesting that they introduced a crazy like tank mastery and like removed flat armor pen, right? Because that was
that's
sort of
huge.
like when you were good. Like that's how you got around the tanks. Because by the time they had enough armor, as they were building armor items, you had flat and like it was fine. You could just deal with them. And then eventually they would outscale your flat, right? But
Yeah,
now it's the opposite. It's like when you want to be killing them and fighting them, you don't have any armor pen, so you can't kill them. I think they almost maybe rejudged them. Well, this I think takes us into like the reworks, you know, quite nicely. But I think they almost overjudged the strength of the assassin reworks, like preemptively.
I would agree.
I think based on like the Juggernaut changes and the way those sort of worked out, where it was like, oh my, like remember when they released Garen, Mordekaiser, Darius, Skarner, and they were all broken. They were all like insanely broken because they made a bunch of items at the same time. And I feel like they sort of realized that. So they're like, all right, when we do this assassin thing, flat armor pen's going to be way better. How do we do that? And they're like, well, we don't really like flat armor pen anyway, so let's just take it out of the game, you know? And
Yeah,
so I kind of like this way of design better because they can always make lethality better, right?
yeah. Like lethality is a more flexible form of armor pen. It's just weaker off the bat. Like,
Right. And if the only thing that's making these tanks really good is that mastery, they can always nerf the mastery, right? Like then tweak that around, or like it gives them more levers. Like they've taken flat armor pen being the only lever was a problem, right? And
yeah,
so I get like design wise what they're doing. It's just there's going to be some wonkiness while they kind of figure it out.
basically the rule right now is whoever's front line lives the longest wins the fight. That's honestly like that's pretty much how fights go now. If your front line stays alive, you win.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could also see that it's like a nightmare to play ADC right now. Like I would not
Well,
want to be an ADC currently.
yes and no, because Courage of the Colossus rewards the CC. Like you do have a lot more peel with the tank supports too.
I didn't think about that.
Like ADCs are actually in a really good spot to be enabled to be successful. But if you're a bad ADC, you're screwed. Like all the ADCs that I've seen complain are ADCs that get caught out a lot. You know, veins that don't tumble away or condemn the enemy away. Or, you know, Rengar can't jump and root you. Rengar has to jump and build up ferocity, and then he can root you. And
Yeah.
so there's significant changes to a lot of these things that give you more opportunity to outplay the enemy. But if you're a bad ADC, then yeah, you're going to get punished a lot harder right now.
Yeah. Especially like when I mean it's always a bummer to be an ADC when Rengar and Kha'Zix are good, right? Like so, I mean that's bad times.
Yep.
I mean making the peel I mean I think you're starting to see like the design lever they're also trying to tweak, which is like let's make assassins good, but let's make like the people who get frustrated by assassins give them a tool, which is encourage people to play the supports that are better against assassins, right? So they're like they're tweaking some things here, like playing, you know, some like a little bit of nudge, like do this, we want you to do this, and you know that's fine. Like I think that's if that's what Riot has to do to like make assassins healthy, I'm okay with it.
Yep. Yeah, it's fine. Like I like the direction they're going for the most part. I really hope tank meta doesn't last forever, even though I play tanks a lot. A lot of my pool is like Maokai, Poppy. Nautilus is 100% re-entering my top lane pool.
Yeah,
Nautilus is just such a Nautilus is
he's
ridiculous.
beast. Yeah,
And
he's
honestly, right now in an era of shields and health like this, like Karma is probably a really good support in my opinion. Like I
yeah.
think Karma's is huge.
I feel like Thresh is really good right now too,
Yeah,
personally. But
Thresh is huge.
I kind of felt he was going to be big, so I don't
Yeah,
know. We'll
Thresh,
see.
Leona, Braum, all I mean, Scion support is the highest win rate support right now because of his base stats, um, and just the way he works. Like he's so good right
So
now as a
tanky,
support.
yeah, and with that stupid mastery, right? All right, so I think that if you can play a big tanky champion that you're going to buy health items on, and you have
Yep.
hard CC, you should probably be playing Courage of the Colossus unless you have a really good reason not to.
Yep. Even if you normally took like Grasp of the Undying top lane, like no, take
just
take courage.
just take the shield, because the whole point of Grasp was to be able to trade effectively. And if you're getting this
Yeah.
massive shield, like, you can trade, and if they take it and you don't, you're not going to be able to outtrade them. So
Yep.
yeah, so take Courage of the Colossus. It's apparently pretty good, guys.
So we've kind of touched on the reworks. Do you have any impressions on any of the champions now that they're live, and which ones you think are good or which ones are underpowered?
So I've only played against one. I played against a Talon, and I was not impressed, to be honest. I have watched a number of games in my travels. I've watched a fair bit of Rengar. He is busted. Very good. I think it's very interesting, like, that it is a tank meta and Rengar is good, which is sort of like not normally the way it works.
Bruiser Rengar is good.
Yeah,
Assassin Rengar gets deleted.
Yeah, he just gets killed, and like, so I think like they just need to play around with his numbers a lot. But I think they want him to be a bruiser, so mission accomplished. They did that, right? But the problem is he's a bruiser that's one-shotting people, and that's probably not where we want to be. I was actually the one thing that was super surprising to me, and I think you just touched on this a minute ago, is like Kha'Zix is insane. Like
Kha'Zix is huge.
Like nuts broken. That Q change is huge. Like when he's isolated, he's just mashing that Q button, killing you, and that's pretty scary. How is his clear now?
His clear is stupid easy, like absolutely stupid easy. Because the raptors, which are are the chickens, the ones that have been giving everyone trouble, like he makes short work of those because of his W. Like if you start blue, go Grump, and we'll talk about pathing later.
Yeah.
But if you start blue and work your way through, you can do a full clear with almost no problem.
Okay.
And it's just absolutely, he is so good.
So he has a good clear now, whereas his clear before was okay, and it was really good once he got like rolling.
If you are bad at kiting camps, like you won't be punished as hard. Now, whereas before you would, like if you didn't kite right, you were dead with Kha'Zix, like you couldn't clear. But now, I've watched streamers, like they just sit there and AFK auto the camps and they're fine. Like I saw one streamer playing Kha'Zix and then he switched over to RuneScape while he was taking Gromp at level 2.
Wow,
like it's actually pretty easy, really easy now to do Kha'Zix out of the first clear of the jungle. So Kha'Zix is really good right now. All of the changes are good with him. The only thing I don't like is that they removed the W from his slow, so he now has pretty much no CC.
Oh, they removed the slow completely, huh?
Yeah, so it sucks.
That was really what I liked about him, like in team fights. But man, that slow has been through so many changes, over the time. That slow, when they first reworked it, was crazy busted. It was like super. It was like a 50% slow, and it was like AOE, and oh my god, it was so broken. But it's just slowly been trailing, and finally, I guess they finally just took it out.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone now. I feel bad, but it's fine.
It didn't make a ton of sense that it was there, and I think he has like the tools to gap close like now. He always felt a little too mobile to have a slow. I think that like having the slow and the E and the R like is a little too much gap close that they want. So it made him hard to buff.
Yeah, it just sucks because now he has no CC. Like he has no way of really locking someone down. So you have to play him a little bit smarter. But he does. Yeah, but he does really well.
If they're dead, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, gray screen is the best CC.
It's
So
exactly right. So, what about the other ones? Like, so what else have you played against? Have you played against like the
uh,
Katarinas, the LeBlancs? Like,
Katarina is really if Katarina knows what she's doing and she gets ahead, like she's really strong. Just like before, but now like here's the thing. Katarina before she got ahead, like you knew it was kind of dumb luck on the player because all you had to do was face roll your keyboard. Now the new Katarina takes skill. So if Katarina gets ahead, you actually get a little bit of fear in you because you know that the player knows what they're doing. Like
I don't know
that's
about.
the
I think there's a
so
path
like a little
divergence
bit
here.
more.
There's some
Uh
change where me personally, when they have a 5-0 Katarina, like I was super scared in the previous, like where
well,
it was
like
like,
I yeah,
like I
there
was always very afraid of Katarina when she got
no,
fed.
oh yeah, but you also knew that it was kind of like she was getting the perfect engages that your team was setting her up for, and it
Okay,
was kind of like, and that's what sucked. This Katarina has more control over what she sets up because of the way she throws her knives up.
right.
So that or her daggers, whatever. So like that's why it's a little bit scarier. LeBlanc is really powerful if um LeBlanc is really powerful. I think she's going to be like Aurelian Soul, where people are going to figure out how to play her. They haven't really yet. The people who miss her kind of quick in and out, now you have to do it a little bit slower, a little bit more intentionally. Um,
She was
I
super
think,
annoying. Like
but high elo players are saying she's really good.
Yeah.
No one's just figured out her full potential yet.
I think LeBlanc needed. I was actually really happy that they decided to finally rework LeBlanc because actually I've never liked her play pattern when she was ahead. I've never liked like her. It's too safe,
Yeah.
and it was always like, and it used to be way worse, and they've like slowly trimmed it down, but it always felt the same. Even after they changed it, it felt like you had a little more counterplay, but it was still hard, and like it's just not fun to play against. Like it was never fun because she got ahead and she has mana, okay, boop boop, and she would hit you, and like her wave clear was super like safe, and it just I just never liked her. So it's
Well,
interesting that they changed it around.
what I will say is what everyone thought like the clone was going to freak you out, the fact that she could summon a clone globally. I've had a clone show up out of a bush like 10 times and it hasn't freaked me out once. I don't know why. I've just like hasn't even phased me at all.
There she
Like,
is.
oh, okay, and then gone. Like it's been not a problem at all. And I think that's because I'm used to LeBlancs being really aggressive as soon as they show up on your screen. And
then
the
this one
clone just
kind of
throws an
walks.
ability and disappears. Yeah, like it's super calm. Like it's not scary at all.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen an issue at all with it. So that's not as scary. I thought that was going to be a problem, but it's really not.
Yeah.
But she is strong. I think if people figure out how to use her, yeah, it'll be huge. Talon, kind of the same. I think he's weak still, but it's fine. I think people will figure it out and play him well.
I think Talon they'll get right, and I think that they did the right thing with Talon. Like
Talon's just more annoying right now, like because you can't kill him because he gets away.
Yeah.
Like that's what's annoying.
That's his idea, right? Like that's what they want him to be. Like they want him to be this like high mobility, like in and out sort of guy. Like that's cool, and like I like it. I think the idea behind Talon is really good. They'll just probably need to buff his numbers a little bit, or just give him time.
Yeah.
Like give him time, and they'll catch up. Like, it'll be all right. So
Yep.
I mean, that's the one I played against, and I dumpstered him. So I don't know. I played Mordekaiser, so we'll get to that. Like I guess this goes right into the. So I played a Mordekaiser game, the only game that I've played, and I finally got back and was able to play a game. Are we good on the reworks? Let me just
Yeah.
I think anything else we need to talk about? I think we kind of touched on all the ones that are big.
Pretty fun.
But I came back and I played a Mordekaiser game, right? And instantly, of course, like time for new season, first game of the season. Time to play some Mordekaiser Jungle, Clearly, that's what everybody does, right? So I'm like, all right. And then I realized, like, in a panic, once I actually queued into the game, I'm like, after I picked him, I was like, oh my God, Strength of the Ages is gone. So I, like, freak out. And Champ's like, I'm like, oh, what do I do? So I'm like, okay. So I just go down the tree, and I'm like, oh, well, I've played Deathfire Touch on him before. Because Storm Raiders feels real bad because I'm not going to have any damage. So I just like hurry down the tree and I make a Deathfire Touch page and I play it, right? And so I kind of played around and I did a number of camps and I start off and I'm like, okay, I don't know where to start, right? Like, so I don't know. And then I realized I had linked you to a Reddit thread at some point that had a jungle clear where a guy was like, power farming is not dead, and we'll actually put this thread in the show notes because I think it's a great like post. It's a super well thought out Reddit post, which is like 1 in a million. Okay. So, but he, just talked about like, here's some paths that will get you to 6 very quickly. And so I said, okay, so I found one. And it's like start raptors, and I'm like, okay, already this is real weird, and like there's a bunch of raptors. Okay, so I start raptors, then it's like, okay, then go to Grump, and or not Grump, Krugs, and I'm like, okay, what? So I go raptors and realize I'm blue side, right? So like I'm on the bottom side of the jungle. It's blue side, I think.
Yeah.
And so I'm on the bottom side, and I do raptors, and I get like 1 auto attack from my mid laner, and like one plant from a Zyra, right? That's what I get. And I kill the raptors, and I'm okay, and I'm kind of low, but so then I get to Krugs, and I'm like, all right, everything's gonna be fine. Then I realize, like, oh my god, like these Krugs, like they keep coming, right? Like I'm like, what is going on? But thankfully, like on Mord, he's got an AOE, and he's got like, a heal. So I barely make it through that camp. And then it's like, okay, then the guide's like, go to wolves. And I'm like, man, like I am all over the map. This stinks, right? Like I'm like, I go raptors to Krugs to wolves. This feels like super inefficient, right? So I go to wolves, and like I clear wolves like no problem, right? And then it's like Grump. So I do Grump. And then the guide actually tells me to go back. But I'm like, well, I'm like, and Mord, the way his clear works, he gets low, but then all of a sudden he's not low anymore. Okay, so like right around level 3, once he hits level 3, he doesn't get low clearing. He actually gains off the camps. So I realize I'm at like 60% health, and my blue's right there. So I'm like, well, I'll just do blue. So I do blue, and then I walk down and I do red, and then I realize like I'm level 6 basically. Like, and I'm like, what just happened? Like, what is going on? Right? Like I was like almost level 6 already. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. So I kind of like go back. Actually, I go bot, I go back, I go bot, kill Krugs, and then get a double kill. Right? It's just like the weirdest pathing I've ever seen. But I was like, after that first clear, I had tons of experience. Like I was like almost 6, I think. If I'd have done Scuttle Crab, I'd have been 6. Which was insane. Like
because if you start Raptors, because of the average level of the like the game, like the extra Raptor gives you like 150 bonus XP if you start that camp first. That's why. Like it's really significant. That's
why people tell you.
If you had done any other way, you would have been level 4 at the end of your clear.
Okay, so I was like 5 halfway to 6, and I think I leached like a little bit off of mid because I think our mid laner was pushed a turret, and I was walking up to wolves, and he was pushed in, and like a creep died on the turret, and I gained like 1 or 2 bit of experience.
And because of the path, or because of the spawn timer change, like you walking all the way from Krugs to wolves, really kind of made up for the time that you would have lost if you had just done a full cleared and then backed.
Yeah.
So like it was really no big deal. It just means that that's how you're choosing to use that time, and that's fine because you're using that time. It's a sacrifice for getting the extra XP off of the Raptors.
Right. So basically my clear was Raptors, Krugs, wolves, Grump, blue, red. And then I ended up basically at the end of it like level 5 with a buff. Like with blue and red buff, and I'm like, I'm ready to gank, like I was ready, I was ready to fight, and like, which is weird, like that's not normally how it goes. Like in the old jungle, Mord would do a full clear, and I would have to go back. Like it'd be like, all right, because even though he's gaining off the camps, it'd be like, all right, I don't have anything, like I'm only level 4, like I really don't want to bump into like a Lee here, so I'm just gonna go back and start over. But this was like I was healthy, I was ready to go. Is that normal? Like, what have you been doing pathing wise? That seems real strange to me. So,
yeah, pathing is okay. 90% of the time, I think you're just going to start blue or red buff. The junglers I play typically start at blue buff, and you're fine. Like, Hecarim loves it. Vi loves it. Like everyone loves blue buff. The thing that's weird about pathing is, and this is the most important thing that I've found, because of and we're going to get into this later, but because of the way the camp spawns are, counter jungling is really important now. And invades are huge. So Shaco is kind of an Eve have really made a comeback for this. But you really won't see or shouldn't see someone they clear one side of their jungle and then they go gank. Because if you lose that other half of your jungle, you're 2.5 minutes away from any camp coming back up. That's huge. Like, you are crippled if you get your camp stolen and you can't make up for it another way.
Okay, so that's why people are starting the buffs, because like you just have to get them, and like
pretty much. Well, and Gromp and this is the other thing. Gromp and Krugs don't spawn for 15 seconds after the other
right.
camps. So you can't start those, and you need a leash. So the next closest camp for your side laners is the buff.
Right.
So it makes sense to start that. It works out really well. Like, it's totally fine. And that's kind of the rationale behind starting the buffs. It protects them, plus it gives you a healthy start too. It's kind of like the buffs help you clear the same way that the old Krug or Gromp smite buffs used to help you clear.
Yeah, which I will admit, like, I actually really missed. I didn't expect to miss them as much as I did, and like,
I really like.
Man, it stunk because I was like, man, like, I'm gonna go, like, I'm gonna walk up after I did the red buff. I'm like, well, I think my Raptors are gonna be up soon, right? Because I think maybe they were up or they were about to be, and I was like, I'll just smite Raptors, and then I realized, oh wait, no, it's not gonna work. And I was like, no, I don't want to gank anymore. Like, it literally deterred me from ganking mid, because I'm like, oh, well, by this point, he's totally going to have a ward in one of these sides, right?
Yeah, and it's, the other issue, too, is because you're not getting the smite buffs now, like, the old temptations to smite blue from mana back. That's gone. Smite something for its specific benefit, like wolves for vision. It's all like worthless now, and you have the temptation to start when you get a leash to start with smite like you did before, and no, you don't do that anymore, because otherwise you waste the sustain. So you really kind of have to break. That'll be gone within like a month for everyone, I think. But it's really hard to break those old habits.
Yeah, that is really weird. So, I mean, Mord is a weird case, I think, where he doesn't really need a leash, and he clears pretty clear. Like, and we actually talked a little bit about this, and I think, like, a lot of people laugh when I say, like, they're like, what are you, jungle Mordekaiser? I'm like, if you are looking for a champion that you can just, like, you have trouble, like, clearing the jungle, like, and you just want to learn how to clear the jungle, Mord's a good choice. I'm telling you, he clears, like, no problem. I mean, he's an interesting champion, but, like, he's complex, but his jungle clear is like brain dead, man. Like, you could just walk around and just push buttons and like.
And honestly, like, jungle pathing is, if you can learn it now and you take advantage of your camps the second they're up, and like the jungle rewards you with more golden XP than before.
Yeah.
And if you're clearing it well, you can end up 2-3 levels above the enemy jungler, regardless of if they're getting kills or whatever. And then you're more relevant than them, and you're stronger than them no matter what. I went up as Hecarim against a Vi that was 4-1, and I was 0-1-1, I think, as Hecarim, but I had 30 CS on her. Like,
like, that's insane.
Cow.
That's and your like, levels at that point. Yeah,
that's jungle CS. That's not lane CS. Like, that's really significant.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So, like, if you're, and I see this regularly on people's streams, like, they're regularly ahead. If you are farming well, you're winning the game, honestly. Yeah. If you don't know what to do, farm. Just farm.
I think it's really funny because the whole point was to, like, not make the jungle. And I said this. I said this on the stream. I said, this is a self-correcting game. And, like, they'll do this to try and change things. There's the dog. So I think I said this before. I said, what will happen is, with people ganking and these camps taking longer to respawn, if you are able to farm correctly, they will fall so far behind, because now that time that they should have spent clearing the camp, they didn't. And so that, like, it's going to exponentially add up, because now the camps are more important. Like, it's important to take them on cooldown. And, like, those champs like Master Yi, and those like farm heavy junglers, I think they're still going to be good. I think like
They are.
yeah,
But the way that the jungle timers work now, they do require that you do something on the map, not just farm and back.
right.
So that's what I appreciate. So they gave the power farmers a way to be more involved in the game and still farm.
Yeah.
So
Which I think is great.
that I
Like
do.
because you
Yeah,
have
I
to make
agree.
a decision like you know, we were talking about this I think a little bit before we started, but I think scuttle's a lot more important because, you know, now that you can't just like full clear and just stay in your jungle forever and you have to actually leave. Like now you're naturally a power farmer is naturally going to go, well, I'll just go take scuttle, right? Like all
Yeah.
my camps are gone. I can't gank. I'll just take scuttle. But now what happens is those junglers who want to fight can know that and be like, well, he's got to eventually take this scuttle crab. So if you just take it, now he has nothing to take and he's wasted all this time. Or you bump into him and you kill him. So I think they've done some subtle things here that really have tentatively are doing what they intend, right? It's trying to make people do stuff, which is interesting.
And here's the other thing. If you're pathing and you're looking for something to do, you don't have any wards to place, walk up to the entrance of their jungle and hit that Scryer's Bloom and just light up that side of their jungle. Because if they're there, then you've given your team information. And if they're not there, then you have either information on what camps are up or you have at least where they're not.
Yeah, so that's one thing we haven't talked. We didn't talk about the plants really. So
The
plants
plants
like
suck. I hate them.
I you know what? Like I played the entire game and I took one plant. I took one plant like right before I took Baron actually. So I killed a guy. It was like 21 minutes into the game and like we killed their top laner and I was just like, let's take Baron. And I literally had I didn't even realize the plant was up. I was just like, well, more all four of my team, like literally we had like 4 people top lane. We killed the top laner and I knew the jungler was bot. And I was just like, let's take Baron. So we just took Baron and basically won the game off of it. But I took the little thing before. I was like, what does this do? Oh, is this the one that gives me health? And I just hit it and like I got health. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then just continued the game like I always did.
Yeah.
I haven't been impressed with them at all, to be honest. Like,
So Scryer's Bloom is great. I actually think I appreciate Scryer's Bloom a lot because the counterplay to it, you as the enemy team, you see the vision kind of show up just like if they proc Scryer's Bloom and it comes across your screen, you see it as the enemy team like you would see an Ashe hawk shot come through. But the counterplay to it is you know that someone procced it and you know exactly where an enemy is. If you see them, like if you see it come across your map, then you know an enemy was right where it was. So it does have some counterplay to it. It makes invades really safe. You know, if you're going to go check their bottom side of the jungle for a camp, you don't have to walk all the way to wolves to see it. You just proc that Scryer's Bloom in the right direction and you'll know if their wolves are up. And so you can save yourself 10, 20 seconds, 30 seconds by hitting it. So Scryer's Bloom is great. Blast Cone is dumb. I hate it. I can't stand it. It's clunky. It feels like the beta version of something. Like it's terrible.
Feels goofy. It feels gimmicky to me. Like it's like a satchel charge. Like I actually hit it one time in my game to see what it did, and I was like, okay.
Like, the animation is awkward. The way that like the targeting is awkward. Everything is just super awkward with it. I hate it. Maybe I'll get used to it, but I'll never like it.
It also felt like, and this is just maybe a feel thing, but like it felt weird when I hit that plant. Like it didn't quite feel like I was doing something. It was like I was clicking something on the, it was like I was like, it didn't feel like when you hit a ward, it feels like you're hitting a ward, right? Like when you right click a ward and it feels right. Like the animations don't look right when you're hitting them. Yep. And Mord has a really like excessive auto attack animation. It's like he's got a big mace and he kind of goes whack, you know? And it just didn't feel like it fit the game. It's hard to describe, but it just didn't feel like it belonged.
No. And if you and it has some weird interactions. Like I think I was reading today that if you hit a Blast Cone with Hecarim's Devastating Charge, because he kind of plows over with that because it's an empowered auto, what Blast Cone will basically do is blast you back to where the Blast Cone is. It won't actually knock you over a wall if you hit it with E.
Gotcha.
It'll just because you pass it as it blows up because that's how Devastating Charge works, right? So if you pass it, then it blows you right back in the same direction that you came from and lands you pretty much where it is.
That is super strange. So
So,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
I mean,
it's
so
just
far
clunky.
I'm kind of like, whatever on the plants.
Honey
But
fruit's good. Honey fruit is good, and scribes bloom are good. But I still don't see them as necessary. Like that's
yeah,
the thing.
I think that's
I
my
don't.
thing too. I haven't really felt like I needed them to be in the game. But you know what?
Yeah,
To be fair, they haven't ruined the game either. So like, if some people really like them and they add some like level of like, you know, like they don't bother me, I guess is what I would say. Like I'm not like I hate the teaser in the game, like
if they got rid of blast cone, I wouldn't have a complaint. Honestly, like I'd
so
be like, whatever. They're
that's
there, cool.
my thing with them is I just don't care. It's like they don't
Yeah,
change the game in any meaningful way to me. I'm sure there's gonna be
yeah,
sweet YouTube videos of like guys like getting away with like 1
yeah. It's happened.
HP and like I'm sure, but like all right, whatever. If that's what they want to put in, like
Yeah,
I'm okay
someone
with it.
dodged an Oriole with it the other day and got away with like 10 HP. I think it was Scara.
That's pretty awesome.
Like yeah, like I
Oh, cool.
guess
All
like
right, all right.
yeah, yay. Like,
Whatever, I don't.
so plants they exist.
Sure.
That's
Yeah, plants
basically.
exist. They're a thing. Like, all right.
Scryer's Bloom is good though. I think if you have the opportunity to use it, if you are pushed up against the enemy's inhibs and you're gonna track back for Baron or Dragon, and you don't have any wards to put, if you're passing by Scryer's Bloom, just proc it across their jungle and you'll be able to see them following you.
Yeah.
Like I think it's super useful in very specific situations. So.
Yeah. I mean, I like okay.
Yeah.
Plants.
Yep.
Whatever.
Good.
They're like a salad. Like okay, like cool. Like,
Salads
great.
of League of Legends.
Here, let me serve you a nice salad. Like okay. I'm not like revolted by this salad, but I'm not real excited to eat it either. So,
all right. So we've kind of gone over a lot of the
yeah. I think that
a lot of
that
the
runs through.
preseason stuff.
Let's get to questions. So let's start off with all you people out there, the two people that didn't like have it. I don't think there are two people that actually haven't got their like monies,
Rewards
their
yet.
prize yet. I'm sorry. I was working. You're gonna get your monies. All right. So I actually added the last guy. Like, don't worry, I didn't duck out on you. We're not leaving. Same, it's still rolling. Like, we're not like chilling out on you. Like, I got your question and you're getting nothing. Like, no, that's not it. So if you don't know, you can submit your questions to summonersift@gmail.com. We pick a question every week. That question wins $10 in RP. Sweet, you can buy a skin, right? We love to read them on air. We love questions, and the questions as we had a while. We picked we try to pick the best ones every week. It was tough to choose this week, to be honest. There were some really nice ones, but really great questions this week. Thank you. Keep sending them in.
Yep. And nice questions too.
Yeah.
Like they're not just good questions, they're kind questions.
Flattery will get you on the podcast. And getting on the podcast is the first step to being closer to the RP.
That's right.
So
Agreed.
flattery gets you
Can get you money. Flattery can get you money in this case.
and that's true in like many other ways. Like just run that strategy in the rest of the world. It also works for LP as well, apparently.
Except if you're running for president. If you're running for president, don't use flattery. Use the exact opposite.
Yeah, use the
you'll-
exact opposite.
You'll win.
Totally win. Absolutely, 100% of the time. All right. So you want to read this first one?
Yeah.
All right.
All
Go
right.
for
So first guy is, I think it's Seward or Seaward Horace. I'm sorry if I botched your name. You can just buy me $5.
Seward
in
Horace, I think. Yeah.
Seward Horace. All right. If I messed it up, you can buy me $5 of IP, and I'll forgive you.
All right.
So, he says, "Great show, my favorite league podcast." Hey, that's so nice. We're 10 episodes. That's amazing. All right. I have a question I'd like you to discuss. With the changes to the jungle in the preseason, people are saying counter jungling is going to become more impactful. My question is this. If you have the chance to take only one enemy camp, which one should you prioritize? Then he adds another question. Is there ever a situation where you would take something other than a buff camp, assuming it's available? Does it depend on your enemy jungler, for example, AoE versus single target clears?
All right. So I actually think like we should answer the second part of this question because I think it's a lot easier, right? So I think like you should take the buff. Okay, like in general,
If the
like
buff's up, yeah, take
if
it.
the buff is there and you are at the buff, you should just take it. Okay. Now, like that, there's things around that. Like there's a lot of what ifs there because generally, if you're in a situation to invade a buff and take a buff, it's most likely going to be blue because of the way the way blue works. Like generally, it's you have a more open path and you can actually see it. Whereas red, when you take red, you know red is there and you know where they are. So like blue, in my experience, and you can kind of, I think maybe we're on the same page here, but blue in my experience is the buff that I like walk by and I'm like, oh, there's a blue buff, and then I take it,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Whereas
Yep.
red is like like it's a plan. Like I'm on a mission. Like it's like, okay,
Yep.
their Lee is bot, I'm topside, I'm taking his red, and you gotta like there's a lot more thinking involved in taking the red. Like if you're going to the red, you better like know where people are. Blue you
And
can get away with.
well, and honestly, here's what you do now, because and this utilizes Scryer's Bloom. You prioritize the buff, right? And with red, you can use Scryer's Bloom to check if their red is up. So you don't have to waste the time walking around to check. So you prioritize the first camp that you can get to. So with blue side, it would be blue buff. With red side, it would be Raptors. And unless you know their buff is up and they're on the other side of the other side of the map. But with the way the jungle works now, you can typically get at any point that you're invading, except for like level 3, you can get two or three camps before they make it in time if they're on the other side of the map, with a gank.
And that is just
So
brutal. Like in this,
yeah, it's huge.
dude. When it's 150 seconds for camps to go, if you take 2 of their camps, they are screwed. Like now you've gained so much because now you know which side of the jungle they're going to be on for the next 2 minutes. Like that's wild.
So your thought process walking into their blue side, right? You walk up through the blue entrance, like the entrance to blue buff. You hit Scryer's Bloom aimed at their wolves. So you see if their wolves are up. You take blue buff, Gromp, and if you think you have time, you can take wolves. If their blue buff's down, you take Gromp, wolves, if you've seen that it's up, and then you leave. So you've got like utilize Scryer's Bloom. If you're going for red side, then hit Scryer's Bloom towards Krugs and red buff. Check if those are up with it, and then go take Raptors. That's kind of your mentality. It really doesn't matter what kind of clear they have. What matters is where they are and how much time you think you have.
I think and it's actually bigger this season than it was last season, what I'm about to say, because last season there were arguments that you could make for certain camps. Like, I need his wolves because I want to smite his wolves so that I can get the vision. But that's not the case anymore. Now what you need to do is take all that you can that you're not going to die to take, right? And like, so your order should be like, can I get anything? Okay, I can take this. Raptors sometimes are a little easier because like, instead of taking the red, because like, you don't have to worry about it. Like Raptors are a lot easier, that path out, and blue buff is the same way where like, there's a path where you can get away. So I think like now just take what you can get, obviously prioritize the buffs. But as far as the other camps, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I don't know that I would ever be taking their Krugs, like, because that's a weird spot. Like, especially if their Krugs are bot. Like, if you're going into the blue side jungle, right, like behind Dragon, and you're having to go to that Krugs, that's a super dangerous camp to try and steal because like bot can collapse on you and like mid, like it's just,
really
just a bunch of bad things that can happen if you try to take that camp.
The only time I take their Krugs is if I know 100% that I'm safe, I'm not taking a risk at all. So if I have full top lane control because my top laner is crushing lane, or I know that their jungler can't do anything to me, whatever, those are the only situations I would do it. It takes so long to clear now because of the spawns, because of the mini Krugs and the mini, like the Russian doll type effect that they have. Like, it's just not worth the time sink. If you don't know that you can get it. If you know that you can get it, it's worth it because it gives a lot more than it used to.
Sure.
But it's not worth the risk.
I think what's important here is that you should, and this is something I think we would like say to and this is how you get better at jungling, I think, like as a big part of it, is you need to be making decisions based on where they are on the map. So like prioritizing camps is not the point. It's he's top. I need to be in his bottom side jungle, right? That's the way you should be thinking. And then just take the camps that you can get, right? Don't worry too much about like, I want to get his red or I want to get his blue. Like, I mean, that's fine. Like, hey, if you know his red's up, sure, go get it. But like, the point should be he's top. I'm going to take it all. Like, I'm going to get all of his jungle, right? Because that's the way good junglers work. Is like, when he's bot, I can't get there. I'm going to be in his top side jungle. If he's top, I can't get there. I'm taking dragon or I'm taking his bottom side jungle. So,
and if you have an ability that can kind of snipe jungle creeps away, use it. If you can contest their camps, either make them take extra damage, like making them tank raptors for longer is painful. Because the raptors hurt. But also because the camps don't come up for another 2.5 minutes, if any creep that you take matters. So even if you run into them doing a camp and you're stronger, or you can walk in and just steal one of their minions, one of the jungle creeps, do it and then walk away, because you're denying whatever you can deny them. Denial is the way to win in the jungle. I think farming more effectively, more efficiently will get you leads.
Yeah, it's not like it was last season where like you could farm, but it was really just a way to get minorly ahead, like like counter jungling somebody. Now I think it's like a much more viable strategy. You don't have to
counter jungling. Just didn't matter last season. Really,
last season because the camps were up so quick that it was like, yeah, whatever. I'll just I'll farm this side and then I'll go back, or I'll gank, and then like by the time, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit to it, but not like this season. I feel like it's a lot more impactful. So I hope that answered your question. So
counter jungle if you can, and prioritize whatever camp is up.
Just take what you can get. Like, and you should be doing this a lot, okay? But
I don't want to forget to say this. Do not take Poacher's Knife right now.
Okay.
It's actually faster to just clear the jungle and get it and like get the gold for it, because you have a 60-second cooldown between taking camps to get the 3 stacks for Poacher's Knife. So you have to wait 60 seconds before you can get another stack for Poacher's Knife. So it takes a lot longer to stack than you think. So it's a waste of time, in my opinion. I've heard Dardoch and other high elo junglers say the same thing. Like, it's a waste of time right now. So they
can't get that item right. Like, they just can't get it right. Like,
no, I applaud them for trying, but it's just right now it won't do much.
So I hope that helps. Take what you can get, man. Get their jungle.
Yep.
It's your jungle. It's not their jungle.
That's right.
And don't die to their laners. God, man. If you die to their laners in their jungle, you have made a horrific mistake. Like, whatever that, like, if there was ever a time, and we've talked about this before, like, where you should go back and look at your replays, if you die in their jungle to their laner, you need to write it down on a piece of paper and say, I need to go back and figure out what I did wrong here. Because or
their jungler, for that matter.
Yeah. Like, what in the world? Like, yeah, their jungler, like, there's times, like, where dying to their jungler is okay, because, like, you're like, oh, I'm lead, like, I can fight them, like, whatever. But, like, 100% of the time, if you try to invade their jungle and you die to their laner, you've done something wrong. Like, you screwed up somehow. I think that's the last piece that I would sort of mention.
Yep.
So. All right, so let's go into this next question. You want to read this one, or you want me to?
I read the first one, so you can read this one.
All right, I'm going to read this question. Okay, so Lycos writes in and says, I wanted to open with a giant thank you and keep up the great work. I'm returning to the game after not playing for a year or so and have been inspired by Worlds to get back into League. Since I found your podcast and stream, I've been totally hooked by the jokes and the banter, and the way you guys explain things gets through my head in ways other podcasts have not been able to. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere. So thank you so much, Lycos. Like, that's probably the nicest comments we've gotten since we started, like, the podcast. That's super awesome. I'm really glad that somebody gets some value out of this nonsense, right? Like, I mean, other than us just blabbing at each other, right?
Well, and it's really important that people can listen to us, and things are getting through their heads. Our advice doesn't work for necessarily like masters level players, but it works for people who are near our level, who are trying to learn the game too. So I love that.
That's so awesome to hear. We appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. So I typically hear he goes on and he says, after like the flattery and the wonderful words, that he can write many more. So I typically hear an emphasis on improving your play and not trying to be a one-trick pony. However, do you believe being a one-trick pony is too harmful to player development? I main support and play top as my secondary, which means I play support always. I have been strongly considering trying to get good with one champion to start a charge up the ranks. I primarily play Nami right now, but have considered more of a damage support like Morgana or Zyra. Is this a bad mindset to have, or do you think it can work out for the high bronze, low silver tiers? I'll let you get first crack at this. Because you are the former one trick, so.
And I just had an argument with this about this with a Masters level player yesterday. So this is great. So here's if you are one tricking all the way up, you're actually hindering your long-term growth as a player because you're only learning that one champion. You're not learning, and you are learning the macro, but you're not learning more about the game itself. You're really winning because you're just outplaying your opponent mechanically because you understand your champion better, which is fine, and that's fine if that's your goal. But if you want, so here's the way that I think is the best way. One trick pony in bronze and silver until you have a solid grasp on the macro of the game. When you know where to be, when to be there, and you can do it without having to think about it. Because right now, if you're in school, right? If you're in like high school, college, whatever, you don't take math and history class at the exact same time. You take math class and then you take history class. But if you're learning a new champion and you're trying to learn the macro at the same time, then you're trying to take math and history at the same time. And that's like next to impossible. So what you want to do is do one until you have a solid understanding and then do the next. Even a better example would be trying to learn about the Civil War and World War II at the same time. Yeah. It's not going to work. Like, you need to learn about one and then learn about the other. Once you have a solid grasp on the macro, because the macro carries through any champion that you play, then you can start switching up the champions that you want to play. It'll also help you understand how to play your champion pool better. If I play Nami and I start learning Morgana and Zyra, I'll understand by playing them how their abilities work, and I'll know, oh, this is what a Morgana player is trying to do, or this is what a Zyra player is trying to do. And it'll help you in your matchups as well, even if you just take them into a custom and learn their abilities. But if you're just high bronze, low silver, that's fine to one trick. But don't stay committed to one tricking as the way to get better at the game. Use one tricking as a way to understand the game. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would say, like, I agree with that point. I think that, so I was never the one trick, right? I was the opposite of you, where I played all the champions. Like, I played all of them. I think the important part is that you understand. So to get better, you need to play in a role, and you need to understand. You play a champion in the role, and you need to understand, when I play this champion in this role, this is my job, right? And that like question gets even more complicated because, like, it depends on like team comp and all these other things, right? Like, in this situation, they have a fed this, and like, we don't have a lot of damage, so like, so try to take, like, we've said this a lot of times, but like, make it simple. Like, stop like over complicating things. Like, for one, like, and this is like, I think should be the core of everybody that plays. Play it because, like, you think it's fun. So, like, if you think playing Nami and playing support is like, that's what you want to do that. Like, that's what's, because you're not gonna get any better if you're not having fun. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Like, yeah, maybe you could play it as a job or whatever, but like, good luck, okay? Because if you ain't pro now, and it's hard. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you've been playing for a little while, like a substantial amount of time, and you're bronze, silver, you probably ain't ever going to be pro, all right? So, like, it's never going to happen, right? So, realize that you're playing this for fun, and then say, you know what, what is fun for me? Is winning the fun thing? Because if winning is the fun thing, you know what, you're going to win more if you just play one champion. Like, if that's what you do, you're just going to win more. That's just the way it works. It's proven over and over and over. If you play one champion, you're going to win more. Because you get to the point where you're not, whoa. That's scary.
Yeah, I don't understand.
She feels the same way. Agree. All right. So the thing is, like, you've got to take out all the things that you think about. So like there's all these things to think about in League of Legends, like so many different like plants and builds and like items and like hit points and potions and wards and like there's just thousands of things to think about. And like worrying about like what your champion does or like what you're supposed to build or what skill order, it's just like more brain power, more things you have to think about. And like when you can start removing all of that and just say like, I play Nami and I know how to build her and I know what I put, like what buttons to push in what situations. That's a huge part of the game and it's a huge part of your brain that's occupied. So just like play your champion. Like, and then once you get to the point where you're like, man, you need to have a reason to play other champions, right? Like, so if it's, I don't like playing Nami, I'm not having fun, and play a different champion. But if it's, I am playing Nami and I'm winning and I'm having fun, like, why would you change? Like, what is the point, right? Now, if you get to a point where, like, you can't climb with Nami anymore and you're like, man, Nami really needs, like, a hard, like, an easier to land CC or needs to do more damage or something like that, then you're getting into the game. Then you've, like, leveled up, right? So, like, there's the, like, what does this champion do level of like, what buttons do I push? How do I win the game? You know, like that's like one level. And then once you get to the point where like you're winning and you can win on a champion, there's a different level of like thinking Nami's not really good right here because X, Y, and Z, because they have an Olaf and like Nami's terrible against Olaf, right? So maybe I need a different champion, you know? And I think that's the way people need to think about the game. Like, especially if you're bronze, low, silver, man, just play what you like to play. Like, just play what you win on. Like, who cares? Like, don't worry about it too much. Like, it's not going to hurt you long run. Like, you'll be fine. That's my argument. Like, that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you're climbing and you eventually hit plat or diamond or whatever, then you are going to start noticing. Like, that's, I think, when it hinders you. But it will not hinder you all the way through gold. That's my opinion. One tricking will not hinder you all the way through gold. But ultimately, I think here's the thing. If you want short-term gains, one trick. If you want long-term gains, which means you'll climb slower, but you'll be better as an overall player when you get to the rank, then diversify what you're playing.
Maybe, but I would actually argue, so say he one tricks Nami all the way up to, say like this guy's like the Nami baller fish lord, right? And so he like swims his way through the ranks, like up to diamond, right? And so he gets there, and now he wants to learn other supports. Like, he's going to learn other supports playing against diamond level players much faster than he would learning against bronze and silver, right? Like, so, like, you can almost win those games, like, at a certain point. Like, if you're able to, I guarantee if you get to diamond on Nami or plat on Nami, and then you just suddenly decide, like, I'm going to play Morgana, and you play against bronze level, like, players, you're going to crush them. It doesn't matter if...
to an extent... Okay, but like, here's the thing. If you get up to diamond with Nami and all of a sudden Nami becomes flavor of the month OP and is banned or picked away from you and you're on Morgana, you're going to play Morgana like a bronze player.
But that's fine.
Against diamond.
No, but you're
against
not.
Diamonds.
You're not, though, because like there's so much...
Okay, you might play as like a gold. But
I mean,
like,
but again, that's higher than he was when he started. So like, I feel like the way MMR gets gained is it's in like steps, right? Like, so you go like boop, 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 boop. And sometimes you take like a half step down. And sometimes it's like a full step down because you're like, oh, like, I'm not good at this. But like, I feel like if you can make it somewhere, like the reason one tricks do well is they, like I said, they remove a big part of the game and make it way easier because now they don't have to think about like 10 different champions and how to win on them. And like, they focus on stuff like positioning and the map and like what to do in team fights. And that stuff's going to be way easier to learn on another champion once you've learned it. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. You do one champion to learn, like, to get a basis of the game, and then you start diversifying after that. That's what I like. I'm in support of one tricking.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I mean, I think like do what you want. Like,
but you'll never see, and this is a good point. You'll never see Gosu play, play in pro play.
Yeah.
because there's a certain amount of the game that he doesn't understand because he doesn't have the level of play across multiple champions. He doesn't. So, and that's going to be the same for anyone. And I'm not saying like pro play is the goal, but that's my point. You will hit a skill cap with one tricking at some point,
and that's different for everyone, right? Like, so
yeah, it is.
But I think like until you like climb regularly on your one trick, don't worry so much about it. Like if you like playing Nami, like don't worry. Like everyone's different. Some people climb better when they play one champion. Some people climb better when they play a bunch of them. Like figure out what works for you. Try it a bunch of different ways. I don't think it's, but I think the phrase like, "Do you believe being a one trick is too harmful to player development?"
No, it's not.
I think it's no. Like it's just
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it eventually can be, but I don't think it is. Now, the other side of this is if you're one tricking to climb and you're not winning, pick a different one trick. Like that's the other. Like if you're not climbing with the champion that you're trying to one trick, you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah, if you're the like, you know, like
30% win rate Yasuo.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. Like if you're the 30% win rate Yasuo that like has a 70% win rate on Zed, maybe stop playing Yasuo, man. Like maybe just no, like leave it alone. Like I get it. Like but hey, again, like who am I to tell that guy what to do? If he's like killing it on Yasuo and he's like, man, I don't care if I have a 30% win rate. This champion is the jelly jam. Like I'm playing him all the time. Like, you know what? Do you, baby? Like 30% win rate Yasuo guy is never going to go pro, right? And like if his goal is like, I want to play a bunch of Yasuo games, I'm a win ninja. Like, go in there, man. Like, do your thing.
Take your Yasuo 30% win rate to flex queue, but leave my solo queue alone. Bring your Zed to solo queue.
But you know what? That's how you. I mean, all right. I think that guy who has like 100 games on Yasuo or something, like this guy's a Reddit dude. Like, it came up in a Reddit stream, by the way. Like,
that's what we're referencing for anyone out of the league.
And but it's funny because like. That guy has made his decision, right? Like he knows the correct way. He knows that his path is the Wind Ninja. And like he's not nothing could deter him. Like who am I to tell him? You know what? Like dude, you know, throw your wind walls, like, you know, dash through some minions, do your thing, baby. Like I don't know. Like hey, who am I to tell him? But like what is like I think as too harmful to player development, I think is like it's a double-edged sword because like your player development for most players, I think is like, are you having fun? Right.
I agree. I 100% agree. If you're having like ultimately, if you're playing this game and not having fun, don't play what you're playing. Change it up.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You're wasting time. You're looking at an hour time sink for one game pretty much after champ select and everything else is done. It's just not worth it. Like, do what you're going to have fun with. And if ranked isn't fun for you, play normals, play with friends. Don't play ranked. No one ranked has as much value as fun on it.
Exactly. The border doesn't matter, guys. Like, it just doesn't. Especially if you've ever played a normal. Because anybody has ever been in a normal will know that like that guy with a diamond border, that Riven, he's not always going to carry the team.
Nope, he's probably going to feed. I had a diamond Sona in one of my normal games the other day, and she she fed her face off. It was terrible,
man. Like, because what it is they're goofing around. Like, and if that's what you do, like, that's fine. Like, what's good for you? Like, and that goes back to the things that we talk about a lot of other times. It's like, set these goals for you. Like, if your goal is this, like, play to do that. Like, you know, don't get caught up in what everybody else thinks you should be doing. If like your goal is like, I want to play Yasuo in as many games as I want, and I don't care what my win rate is, like, hey man, do your thing. Like, if you want to be singed and, you know, Singe support and run smite and never group ever, you know, like, you're probably going to get banned. But, I mean, hey, at least for a while, technically Riot did ban that guy. There was a Singe support guy that got banned. But
yeah, they allowed him to play still, but they had to, it became a big controversy.
Yeah, it became a big deal. And, like, hey, man, like, he was doing him. If he was having fun, like, all right. So,
yep.
If that guy can do it, follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. Play Nami as much as you want, dude. All right, I think like that discussion definitely leads to that being the question, right? Like I think this is absolutely the question. So congratulations, Lycos. You know, if that's your summoner name, like, hey, you know, add me as a friend on League of Legends. So actually, the one of the last guys, I think his name is Biggie Smalls 89. He's also not my friend on League, and I can't gift to you unless you're my friend. So like I tried to send you a gift, but it wouldn't let me. So hey man, please
email us.
Yeah, email me if you haven't gotten it yet, and also like, hey, just like send me your thing. Like, you'll if you're ever online, just hit me up. Maybe we'll play a game. So
yep.
So
that'd be cool.
That's the cast for this evening. Any final thoughts? Anything you would add?
Two things. One comes from Twitch chat, which is never skip leg day. If you're looking for gains, never skip leg day. That is in reference to when I talked about short-term gains versus long-term gains. Number two is any sort of feedback that you can leave us, either when it's asking a question or not. Please leave it. We don't just read the good parts because we want an ego boost. We do it because it gives us a track of where we are, if we're accomplishing our goals or if we need to step it up. So any feedback that you can give us, please do so. That'll be really helpful for us moving forward as well.
So I would agree with that. Hey, any feedback is appreciated. Even you want to flame us away, like, hey, we post this thing on Reddit every week. We get flamed all the time.
Yep.
So
people hate our name, so that's fine.
Yeah, they hate the name. Screw you. We're keeping the name. It's gonna be this name forever. You can't stop me. It's gonna be weird. All right. So that's the cast for an evening. Thank you so much. Like, we appreciate it. Have a great evening. Thanks for coming by. Take it easy, folks.
Yep. See ya.
And keep on rifting.